Welcome to Brother Owl's Garden. I'm Brian, and I honor your presence here today. I wanted to add some further information regarding the application and uses of Reiki that I felt were worthy of their own little mini episode. So that's what this topic is for today. Everyone knows about, who understands Reiki. You can do it in person and you can do it, as I say, remotely or remotely online, as I discussed in my previous video on how I practice Reiki. But there are some other additional or peripheral applications of Reiki that are quite enriching and available for the application of Reiki to benefit these situations and to help things. So I wanted to share with you these things in regards to how I practice. The first thing I want to tell you is that, as I alluded to I mentioned in my previous episode on how I practice Reiki, there is no constraint of time as well as no constraint of distance. Time space is it's not a boundary or a hindrance in any way, because in the ultimate these things are not there. They're down here in the muck and mire that we're incarnate and occupying in now. So in that sense, you can go back into the past, as we call it from this standpoint, the past, and you can apply Reiki to situations or events that have occurred in the relative past. For example, your childhood. If you can do a meditation and think back to a time when something that is harming you and affecting you now was first initially brought into your life, whatever event wounded you, if you can go back to that moment, even if it's not exactly perfectly one specific moment, but just a general phase of your life when something happened that is hurting you now, you can go back to that and send Reiki to that situation then and there. Then and there. You can Reiki it as it's happening in that perspective. And you can do this for, if you're a practitioner, you can do this for anyone, not just yourself. You can also go into the future, the relative future as we call it, from where we are now. And you can Reiki a situation where you're going to, you sense that you're going to need some divine help. Maybe you have some very difficult, maybe you have some very difficult life challenge ahead of you, or some event that's coming up that's causing you a lot of distress or worry or fear. So you can go and pay it forward, send Reiki to that situation that is accessible to that situation, that event, then and there as it unfolds. So you see, Reiki is not constrained to the present, because the present is a time word, and so is past, and so is future, and so is forever and eternity. These are all time words. The fact is that the great is, as I like to call it, is not just eternal or forever. Those are time words. They are stamped with the concept of time. Chuki wants in. But instead, they are timeless, just like Chuki's cuteness. Yeah. So when we say the words forever and eternal, these are actually time words. And so is the word now. Oh, you have to be present to the now. The now is a measurement of time. It's actually a flawed word. I know I'm a stickler, I'm a purist, but if we identify an inaccuracy and we know a better way of describing something, then why wouldn't we do that? So I just always prefer to use the is. You could also say the I am, the I am who I am. So that's one way, a peripheral way that Reiki can be used, because, in other words, it pierces through this illusion, this veil, this constraint of the concept of time, because really that isn't true. It's not really there. It's something we superimpose over our perception of actuality. So, past, present, future, it's all is. And events and situations which, from our subjective perspective, have already happened can be ministered with Reiki. Things that, from our perspective, have not yet happened can be ministered with Reiki. The other thing is people who have already, as we say, died. What I mean is they have already left their physical bodies behind and transitioned back into to the next of spirit for them, whatever is next on their everlasting soul journey. And we can send them our love and our blessings and our prayers in the form of energy as Reiki. I make, as you know, I make laminated photos with people's names on them in order to do the Reiki, because I think it's very specific as far as honing in on a spiritual address of that exact person. And so I use these cards for several people who are very beloved to me, who have transitioned on before me. They have left their bodies, died, as we say. That's another wrong word. Died has this implication of ended. It's ended. That's not true. When you walk out of one room into another, do you not exist anymore? If you go from inside to outside, have you ended? So, this is why I've said it before. English is not a good language for spirituality at all. In fact, I give it a D plus at best, maybe a D. Excellent for business, excellent for descriptions and categorizations, but not spirituality. So the other thing that can be done with Reiki as sort of an additional or peripheral application is, and if I mentioned this before, I'm sorry, I can't remember if I said it before in my other one. There are metallic transceivers. These are the actual discs themselves, and they are placed at different places around the world. There are currently 5 that I'm aware of, and they're placed at significant geographic locations: North Pole, South Pole, and in between, to essentially serve as antenna batteries, like a solar battery, I think I mentioned before. And so typically the International Reiki Association invites people on the 15th of every month, all practitioners, to directly send Reiki to these energy points, these transceivers around the world. And but you can do it at any time. And so it's like you're charging a crystal, or you're charging a solar battery, that it may then shine out onto all that are within its range. And so that's a very good thing to do. The other thing I like about that, I'll tell you, it's very good to be praying or sending Reiki to some individual, specific individual. But it's also, and maybe even a little higher, a little closer to divinity, to practice impartiality, collective impartiality. So when you're sending out to energy points, or to the collective spirit en masse, regardless of which individuals, it's not just for this one, it's for them all. God sends sunshine and rain upon the good and the wicked alike, that kind of thing. There's just a higher code being enacted there, I think. And so I like that aspect, as impartiality is one of the key components of divine love. And the other one is situations. I make cards, other people may not, but these are situations. Now let me explain. Maybe there's someone who, because they do not ask me for Reiki or decline receiving Reiki for any reason, they are not a valid recipient. I may not send them Reiki because they haven't asked for it, or they are closed to it for their own reasons. But maybe there's a situation where they're suffering greatly over something. I had a very dear friend who was sort of forced into a position of caring for her two elderly and rapidly declining parents. No help from siblings. Had to stop her life, and go be fully present, available, and engaged with them for, it's been more than 3 years. And, on one hand, you could say, wow, what a beautiful soul. She's so wonderful. And also, on the other hand, you could say, ooh, how is she doing it? What vent does she have? What recharging options does she have? Who's taking care of her? And so, because this very dear friend of mine actually is very comfortable with another Reiki practitioner that she knows from her past, there's no room for me there, and it would be wrong to try to wiggle my way into that. And so I cannot send her Reiki because she has another Reiki practitioner that she goes to in person every billion months or something like that. And I know that that's not enough, and I also know that I can't Reiki her under the terms. But I can Reiki the situation. I can wash all that situation in that home with the Reiki to help ease the burden and the angst and the aggravation and the burnout that comes with that kind of situation. And maybe it only helps so much overall, but it's what I can offer, and so I do. That's an example of a situation. Another situation is maybe I have a personal goal that I would like to manifest. There is a certain vision I have that I would like to manifest. Well, I feed it, I water it, I nourish it with the Reiki to help bring that into fruition and manifestation. Chucky came to say hello again. Choop, choop, choop. And so I print them out on cards. So in cases where I have a personal intention or something I would like to manifest or feed or heal, I print that out very specifically on a card, and then I have that to focus on. Again, I can just focus on that thing in my mind. But since I am physically incarnate at the time, it's nice to have a physically manifest representation of that intention, that situation. And so those are 4 additional ways that Reiki can be used, aside from the obvious in person with one client or remotely to another client. So as you can see, it's quite diverse how you can use it. And I know that I did show you my Reiki altar with the Sri Yantra crystal, so you better make it 5, actually. That's kind of a peripheral way too. So 5 peripheral ways to use Reiki, and then the 2, whether they be in person or remotely online. And so I guess you could say there are a total of about 7 or 8 different ways that Reiki can be implemented. So it's quite diverse and useful and able to help in many different ways. So this was sort of an addendum and a follow-up, and I suppose a conclusion to the explanation of how I practice Reiki. I hope it's been meaningful and helpful to you, and I thank you again for stopping by Brother Owl's Garden. Always remember to abide in thankfulness for your highest good in the most benevolent outcome of the divine will.